If you drove 30 miles south of San Francisco today, you might think you were heading toward ordinary suburbs or quiet foothills. But hidden deep inside the Santa Cruz Mountains sits a place that looks nothing like the modern world around it. Here, surrounded by trees and rolling land, lies one of California's most breathtaking secrets, Filoli. Filoli is not just a house. It is a 54,000 square foot Georgian-style mansion wrapped in 16 acres of formal gardens and surrounded by 654 acres of protected land that once fed San Francisco's drinking water. People from all around the world come here today. Over 400,000 visitors each year to walk through garden rooms, admire the neatly clipped hedges, and explore a house so elegant that Hollywood once chose it to represent pure power and wealth. But Filoli was not always a public treasure. For nearly 60 years, it belonged to two families, and the story behind it is filled with triumph, tragedy, ambition, loss, and a dream that ended with 4 graves hidden quietly on the property. The man who built Filoli controlled something more valuable than gold. He controlled water, the very thing that every home, every business, and every person in San Francisco needed. He also owned one of California's richest gold mines. When he decided to build this enormous estate, William Bowers, born II, was already a powerful figure, the kind of man newspapers wrote about and politicians feared. His fortune today would be worth billions. But there was one thing his money could not stop: time. Filoli is not just a story about gardens and ballrooms. It is a story about a man who tried to build a paradise while his health slowly failed him. About a daughter who lived and died far across the ocean. About a wife who watched her world shrink until almost everything she loved was gone. And about another woman, years later, who saved the entire estate from destruction by giving it away to the public. When you walk through Filoli today, you will not see the family graves. They are not included on the official tour, but they are there, quiet, tucked into a private spot beneath trees, and their presence tells a deeper truth. This place was not just an estate, it became a family's final chapter. Before Filoli became a symbol of California's golden age, before it became the last surviving grand estate on the San Francisco peninsula, it was supposed to be something very simple. It was meant to be a place where its owner could grow young. Instead, it became the place where a dynasty ended. To understand how Filoli came to be, we need to go back to the beginning, to a time when William Bowers, born I, father of the man who built Filoli, was trying to hold an empire together. William Bowers, born II, never expected to inherit anything. In January 1875, at just 17 years old, he was studying classics at Cambridge University in England. That was when a telegram arrived with no warning at all. His mother demanded that he return home immediately. His father's estate was collapsing. The investments were falling apart. The family fortune was disappearing by the day. The young man who boarded the ship home had grown up in wealth in San Francisco's Nob Hill. His father, William Bourne Sr., had arrived in California during the gold rush with nothing. Through mining, banking, insurance, and real estate, he rose to extraordinary wealth, the kind of wealth that allowed the family to live like royalty. But something had gone terribly wrong. In 1869, William Sr. had purchased controlling interest in the Empire Mine near Grass Valley, one of the earliest hard rock gold mines in California. At first, the mine thrived, but soon the ore began to run out. Water kept flooding the deep shafts, mining costs climbed, and by 1874, the Empire Mine was barely profitable. Then tragedy struck. In July 1874, while cleaning a revolver in his study, William Sr. suffered a fatal gunshot wound. No one ever determined for certain if it was an accident or something darker. Back at Cambridge, William II received the news. When he returned to California, he discovered a financial disaster waiting for him. His father's investments had been tangled together in dangerous ways. Debt was piling up, and the Empire Mine was on the brink of failure. He was only 22 years old when he faced the biggest choice of his life: let the empire collapse, or fight to save it. He chose to fight. Everyone told him the mine was finished, but William VI believed the problem was not the gold. It was how they were trying to reach it. Engineers said it was impossible to mine profitably below 1,200 feet because water seeped in too quickly. But William refused to accept that. He believed the richest gold vein was even deeper. He brought in his cousin, George-style, a 19-year-old with a sharp understanding of mining technology. Together, they reorganized everything. They added new pumping systems, brought in better drills, and hired skilled Cornish miners from England, men whose families had worked in mines for hundreds of years and knew how to handle waterlogged shafts. For several years, the Empire Mine barely made enough to stay open, but William II kept pushing deeper, 1,500 feet, then 1,800, then 2,000. In 1884, the mine became profitable again. Over the next 40 years, the Empire Mine produced nearly 6 million ounces of gold, making it one of the richest mines in California history. The young man who had raced home from Cambridge had saved the family fortune and built something even greater. But gold alone was not enough for him. By the 1890s, William II turned his attention to something every growing city desperately needed: water. San Francisco's population was booming, and its few springs and wells could not keep up. Private water companies fought bitter wars to control the supply. One company eventually rose to the top, the Spring Valley Water Company. And William II began quietly buying shares. Spring Valley controlled enormous amounts of watershed land in San Mateo County, including the Crystal Springs Reservoir. Because it operated as a private company providing a public service, it had the power of eminent domain, meaning it could take land for the public good, even while making a profit. By 1898, William Bowersborn II became president of the company. Suddenly, he controlled the water supply for hundreds of thousands of people. He set the water rates. He decided which neighborhoods received service. This made him incredibly wealthy and deeply unpopular. San Franciscans paid 24 cents per 1,000 gallons of water, while people in Los Angeles, which had a city-owned water system, paid only 10 cents. Newspapers turned on him. Cartoonists drew Spring Valley as a giant octopus choking the city. Editorials demanded public ownership. But William VI didn't care what the newspapers said. He believed private companies ran things better than the government, and he ran Spring Valley efficiently, keeping water flowing even while criticism grew. Still, he knew the monopoly could not last forever. San Francisco was already planning a new water system that would pipe water from the Sierra Nevada hundreds of miles away. It would take decades, but eventually his company would be replaced. For now, though, William II controlled something every person in the city needed. By 1914, he was 57 years old. He owned a mansion in San Francisco, the Empire Mine Cottage in Grass Valley, and even Muckross House in Ireland. He held investments in gas companies, banks, and real estate. He had everything a Gilded Age industrialist could want, except a peaceful country estate where he and his wife could escape the noise of the city. A place to entertain, a place to garden, a place, in his words, to grow young. So, he began searching the San Francisco peninsula for land. He wanted privacy. He wanted water. And in 1914, he found exactly what he was looking for. In 1914, William Bowersborn II found the land he had been searching for. It stretched across the eastern slope of the Santa Cruz Mountains, looking down toward two massive reservoirs that held the water he controlled. The property was enormous. 654 acres of untouched hills, creeks, oak trees, and open space. To William, it was perfect. He had walked these hills before, as president of the Spring Valley Water Company. He knew where the ground stayed moist, even in dry summers. He knew where the springs appeared and where the small streams ran. He even knew that the San Andreas Fault ran directly through the land. But instead of seeing danger, he simply saw California for what it was. You built carefully, you respected the land, and you made something beautiful anyway. Most wealthy families in the early 1900s built their country estates in places like Burlingame or Hillsborough. Those neighborhoods had neighbors, roads, and beautiful homes right next door. But William didn't want neighbors. He wanted privacy, silence, and control over everything around him. He wanted an estate as large as the land itself. The location was close enough to San Francisco for him to reach easily, about a 30-mile drive that took an hour in the cars of the time. That meant he could visit the estate often while still handling business in the city. To him, it was the perfect blend of escape and accessibility. His wife, Agnes Moody Bourne, was 53 at the time. Their only surviving child, Maud Ma Bourne, was already married and living in Ireland. This estate would not be a place filled with the laughter of children. It would be the next chapter of their lives, a place for hosting elegant gatherings, enjoying music, and creating gardens that would take decades to mature. William had a personal credo he carried with him all his life. It was made of 3 short ideas: fight for a just cause, love your fellow man, live a good life. When he combined the first 2 letters of each phrase, Fi, Lo, Li, he created a single word, Filoli. That would be the name of his estate. Most visitors today think Filoli sounds Italian. They never know that the name is actually a secret code hidden in plain sight, a personal reminder of the values William believed in. Now that he had the land, he needed a home worthy of it, and for that, he turned to one person he trusted. Designing a dream. Willis Jefferson Polk was one of California's most respected architects. He was 57 years old when William contacted him in 1914. For decades, he had designed mansions, banks, office buildings, and impressive city landmarks. He knew how to create beauty, but more importantly, he knew how to create beauty that lasted. William had already worked with him. Polk had designed the Bourne Mansion on Webster Street in San Francisco and the Empire Mine Cottage in Grass Valley. So, when William decided to build Filoli, he made only one call: the call to Polk. When Polk arrived on the site, he immediately felt inspired. The land rolled outward in long, gentle slopes. The hills hugged the property like protective walls. Looking down from the higher elevations, he saw the reservoirs glowing between the mountains. He understood the assignment instantly. This house needed to feel grounded in the land. It could not be tall and flashy. It had to spread across the hillside, extend across the landscape, and feel like it belonged here. Polk chose a Georgian revival style, symmetrical, balanced, classic, and dignified. The kind of architecture that wealthy families in colonial Virginia used. The kind of design that made a statement without screaming for attention. But he also knew this wasn't Virginia. This was California, so he adapted the design. He used red clay tile for the roof instead of slate, because tile belonged to the Spanish missions of the West Coast and handled the California climate better. He designed the brick walls using Flemish bond, a pattern that looks woven and elegant, giving the exterior a subtle richness. Most importantly, he designed the inside around a powerful concept used in European palaces, the enfilade. An enfilade is a sequence of rooms connected along a straight axis. When you stand in the first room, you can see through all the rooms that follow. It creates a sense of grandeur and distance. It makes a house feel larger than it really is. At Filoli, this meant that from the reception room near the entrance, you could look straight through the drawing room and into the dining room. Your eye would travel naturally forward, making you curious to explore more. Polk knew how to shape a visitor's experience from the very first moment. The mansion would include a grand reception hall with a staircase, a formal drawing room, a richly paneled dining room, a massive ballroom, private family rooms upstairs, staff areas in a separate wing, terraces leading out into the gardens. Everything would be arranged with purpose, and everything would be large enough to impress the elite of San Francisco. Construction began in 1915. Workers shaped the land, carved out terraces, and poured strong foundations capable of surviving California earthquakes. Stone from the Empire Mine, waste rock left over after extracting gold, was used around the estate. It was symbolic, like William was literally building his future on the work that had made his fortune. Slowly, the house took shape. The chimneys rose in elegant pairs. The long, red-tiled roof stretched across the hillside. French windows were installed to capture sunlight. Inside, craftsmen carved wood, laid parquet floors, and shaped plaster ceilings. In 1917, after 2 years of work, Filoli was complete. It had cost the equivalent of more than $10 million in modern money, but compared to other Gilded Age estates, like William Randolph Hearst's massive San Simeon, it was modest. Filoli was grand, but not showy. Impressive, but not ridiculous. When William and Agnes moved in that September, they expected to enjoy Filoli for decades. William was 60. Agnes was 56. Their daughter was far away, but life seemed steady. Standing on his new terrace, William looked out over the land he had bought, the land his water company controlled, and felt proud. Everything he had worked for was right before him. He had no idea that within 5 years, his life would change forever. A house for celebration. Filoli was designed for entertaining. That meant the moment you entered the front door, the house needed to send a message, one that whispered wealth, power, and elegance without shouting it. The reception room did exactly that. It rose 2 stories high and was paneled in rich, warm walnut. A grand staircase curved upward, sunlight filtered in through tall windows. Guests arriving for dinner parties or musical evenings stepped into a room that felt both monumental and inviting. From there, they would walk forward through the enfilade of rooms. The drawing room had linen-covered walls and comfortable seating areas arranged near a soft marble fireplace. It was less formal than the reception room, but no less elegant. Next came the dining room, dark oak paneling from floor to ceiling, hand-carved details, and a table that could seat 24 guests. Dinner parties here lasted for hours. Servants moved quietly through hidden doors from the butler's pantry. Crystal clinked, fine dishes were carried in careful order, and the room itself told everyone present that they were in a house built by one of California's most powerful men. But the heart of Filoli's social life was the ballroom. The ballroom stretched 70 feet long, its ceiling rising to more than 20 feet. 2 giant chandeliers hung above a gleaming oak floor. The walls were painted a soft water green color, trimmed in gold leaf. At one end, a massive Baroque fireplace dominated the space, grand enough to belong in a European palace. This was Agnes's realm. She was an accomplished pianist and a supporter of the San Francisco Symphony. She hosted chamber music performances here, seating up to 100 guests. Musicians would fill the room with sound. The high ceiling created perfect acoustics, and through the tall windows, guests could glimpse the gardens outside. Filoli was alive with music, conversation, and laughter. But behind all this beauty was an army of invisible workers. Servants lived in the south wing, small rooms with shared bathrooms. They worked long hours every day, with only a single day off every 2 weeks. Cooks, maids, chauffeurs, gardeners, and butlers all kept the estate running smoothly. Visitors saw only perfection. They never knew how much labor it took to maintain this lifestyle. For a few years, Filoli functioned exactly as William and Agnes hoped. They hosted, they entertained, they enjoyed this masterpiece they had built together. Then, in the summer of 1921, everything changed. William suffered a severe stroke that paralyzed half of his body. The man who had saved a gold mine, built a water empire, and created Filoli with fierce determination, could no longer walk through the gardens he loved. He was only 64, and Filoli would now become something far different from what he had imagined. The stroke that struck William Bowers Bourne II in the summer of 1921 changed everything. Until then, he had been a man defined by action, pushing mines deeper, controlling a city's water supply, expanding his businesses, and shaping enormous landscapes into a home he expected to enjoy for the rest of his life. But that morning, when he tried to sit up and felt his left side refuse to move, all of that came to a halt. Agnes, terrified but composed, immediately called doctors from San Francisco. When they arrived, the diagnosis was clear and grim. William had suffered a major stroke. The damage affected the right side of his brain, leaving the left side of his body weak and unresponsive. In 1921, medicine had no treatment that could reverse such an event. There were no therapies to restore movement, no drugs to help the brain recover. Doctors could only recommend rest and careful monitoring. William survived, but the man he had been was gone forever. His left leg no longer supported him. His left arm hung weakly at his side. His speech was slow and sometimes slurred, though his mind remained painfully sharp. He understood exactly what was happening to him, and the knowledge that he would never again walk his gardens, or stride through his house, or visit his daughter overseas pressed down on him like a weight. A wheelchair became his new reality. Ramps were added to Filoli's entrances. Doorways were widened. Servants helped him move from room to room. Every day of his life now depended on other people. For a man who had spent decades commanding mines, companies, and land, this loss of independence felt like a slow death. Still, there was one thing that continued to inspire him. even if he could not experience it the way he once hoped: the gardens. Designing a living masterpiece. While William struggled with his health inside the house, something extraordinary was happening outside. The formal gardens, 16 acres of terraces, hedges, lawns, and enclosed spaces, were being created with almost the same level of care and ambition that had gone into the mansion. For this, William needed two geniuses. The first was Bruce Porter, an artist, designer, and landscape architect, whose work helped rebuild San Francisco's cultural soul after the 1906 earthquake. Porter was a painter, a stained glass designer, and a creative thinker with a gift for shaping gardens like outdoor architecture. The second was Isabella Bella Warren, a talented horticulturist known throughout the Bay Area for her incredible sense of plant color, texture, and seasonal rhythm. She was 48 years old when she joined the project and already respected among wealthy families who trusted her with their estates. Together, Porter and Bella would create one of America's greatest gardens. Porter designed the structure, the bones of the garden. He walked the land with William, studying where the slopes rose and fell, how the sun traveled across the property, and how the views framed the reservoir and mountains. He believed gardens should unfold like chapters in a book. Each room should lead naturally into the next. Each wall, hedge, and pathway should guide visitors without them even noticing. Bella added life to the structure. She chose the plants, coordinated bloom times, and figured out which flowers, shrubs, and trees could survive in the California climate. She understood color the way a painter understands pigment. She used deep purples, soft whites, rich greens, and seasonal bursts of red and gold to create living artwork that changed throughout the year. Together, they didn't simply plant a garden, they built a world. The garden begins to take shape. The first major space built was the sunken garden, a rectangular area lowered below ground level to create a sense of intimacy and enclosure. At its center was a large reflecting pool holding 8,000 gallons of water, an intentional symbol. Water meant wealth in California, and William, a man who had spent decades controlling water for an entire city, now used it simply for beauty. Water lilies floated on the surface. Stone steps led down to the pool. Japanese yews, clipped into neat shapes, formed walls around the garden. 2 olive trees stood like silent guardians on either side. From there, the central axis stretched upward through a series of walled spaces: the lower terrace, the high place, the woodland garden, the rose garden, the walled garden. Each area had its own purpose and personality. Some were designed for quiet walking. Others were spots for gatherings and lawn games. Some exploded with color. Others used only green shapes and textures. One of William's personal requests was especially meaningful. At Muckross House, the estate he had purchased in Ireland for his daughter, there were magnificent Irish yew trees. He loved them deeply, so he arranged for cuttings from those very yews to be taken, grown at the Empire Mine Cottage in Grass Valley, and then transported to Filoli. Over time, over 200 Irish yews were planted across the grounds, forming long avenues and dramatic lines that still shape the garden today. They served as a living connection between Filoli and the distant home of his daughter, Ma. Gardens like these required enormous labor. Hedges needed constant trimming. Flowers had to be replanted seasonally. Lawns needed mowing. Irrigation systems had to be maintained. By the late 1920s, 12 full-time gardeners worked at Filoli, led by Louis Marinkovich, who would remain at the estate for 50 years. And yet, even as the gardens flourished, William could explore them only through the wheels of a chair. A daughter, across the ocean. To understand the personal tragedy woven into Filoli's story, we must look across the Atlantic to Ireland and to the life of Maud Ma born Vincent, William and Agnes's only surviving child. Born in 1883, Ma grew up in the Bourne Mansion on Webster Street. She studied music, languages, and art. She was groomed for the life of a wealthy young woman, but she also carried the pressure of expectations. By her mid-20s, she was considered close to being an old maid by society's standards. Then she met Arthur Rose Vincent, an Irishman of good family but limited money. He was 18 years older than she was. His first wife had died, but he was kind, responsible, and from a distinguished background. In 1910, the two married in a grand San Francisco ceremony. As a wedding gift, William purchased an entire Irish estate for them, Muckross House in County Kerry. It was a stunning 19th century mansion surrounded by 11,000 acres of mountains, lakes, and forests. William paid the annual costs of running the estate, a huge amount of money, and gave the young couple a generous allowance. Ma settled into life as an Irish estate lady. In 1911, she was formally presented at the court of St. James in London, a major social honor. For William, Muckross House was not just a gift. It became a source of inspiration for Filoli. Its gardens, especially the yews, shaped many of his ideas for his new California estate. He visited Ireland as often as he could, but after his stroke, he would never see it again. Painting Ireland into Filoli. Unable to travel and longing for the world his daughter lived in, William turned to art to bring Ireland to him. In 1921, he hired the well-known American painter Ernest Picciotto to create large murals for Filoli's ballroom. Using photographs and descriptions, Picciotto painted sweeping scenes of Muckross House, its lakes, mist-covered mountains, and soft green landscape. When the murals were installed, they transformed the ballroom into a window to Ireland. Whenever William was wheeled into the room, he could look up at the walls and feel as if he were once again walking beside his daughter near Muckross Lake. It was the closest he would ever get to Ireland again. A heartbreaking telegram. The years after William's stroke were difficult but manageable. He could still think clearly, still make business decisions, still spend hours being wheeled to the high point of the garden, where he could look down over his estate. Then, in November 1929, everything shattered. A telegram arrived from New York. Ma had fallen ill with pneumonia while traveling. When her ship docked, her condition had worsened. She died shortly afterward. She was only 45 years old. William was too weak to travel to her funeral. He stayed in his wheelchair at Filoli while Agnes made the trip, alone. When Ma's body was brought back to California, she was buried in a small cemetery on the Filoli estate, next to the infant brother she never knew, who had died a day after birth. For William, the loss was devastating beyond words. His daughter was gone. His health was failing. His dreams were collapsing. He began selling his businesses, putting his affairs in order. The Empire Mine went to a mining company. Spring Valley Water Company prepared to sell its land and assets to the city. The Irish estate that had once filled him with hope was now a painful memory, and the murals in the ballroom, once comforting, now seemed like a doorway into a world he could never enter again. The death of Maud "Ma" born Vincent in November 1929 marked a breaking point for William Bowers born II. Though he had already been confined to a wheelchair for years, he had held on to a sense of purpose. He still oversaw business decisions. He still visited the gardens each morning. He still believed there were years left to enjoy Filoli with Agnes. But losing his only surviving child shattered something deep inside him. After Ma was laid to rest in the quiet family cemetery on the estate, William changed. He began withdrawing from the responsibilities that had once defined him. He started selling his major assets, the Empire Mine, various investments, and eventually even Spring Valley Water Company, the empire he had shaped over decades. Each sale was a step toward the end, an act of letting go. At Filoli, life became gentler, quieter, and filled with a kind of sadness that settled into the walls of the house. The ballroom that once hosted music now echoed with silence. The dining room saw fewer grand dinners. The gardens still bloomed, but William could no longer explore them in the way he once planned. Every morning, staff wheeled him to the high point of the garden. There, on top of the terraces, he could see the hedges and flower beds shaped by Bruce Porter and Bella Warren, the house designed by Willis Polk, and the wide reservoir valley he had controlled for so many years. Sometimes Agnes sat beside him. Sometimes he sat alone. The dream he had built at Filoli was beautiful, but its creator was fading. The long decline. By the early 1930s, William was in his 70s. He had endured several smaller strokes after the major one in 1921. Each left him a little weaker. His days were structured around caretaking, meals brought on trays, limited movements through the house, and time in the library reviewing reports he could no longer fully act on. Through all of this, Agnes stayed by his side. She had always supported him, first as a social hostess, then as the backbone of their home, and now as his closest caregiver. She kept the estate running, she managed the gardeners, she supervised the staff. She walked the gardens daily and returned to describe the flowers to William, knowing he could no longer see many of them up close. Their marriage had lasted decades. They had built an empire together, and now she watched him decline in the place he had created for both of them. Outside the gates of Filoli, the world was changing rapidly. The Great Depression swept across the country. Businesses collapsed, families lost homes, banks failed. But behind Filoli's brick walls and clipped hedges, the estate remained steady, quiet, isolated, almost untouched by the chaos outside. Still, even Filoli could not escape tragedy. In January 1936, Agnes Moody Bourne fell seriously ill. The records do not reveal exactly what caused her decline, possibly pneumonia, possibly heart failure, but she was 75 years old and her body was tired. After a lifetime of supporting her husband and maintaining her home, she died peacefully on January 20th, 1936. Her death broke William completely. He had lived through business failures, the death of his father, the loss of his daughter, and years of physical limitation. But losing Agnes, the person who had been at his side through every triumph and sorrow, was something his spirit could not survive. 6 months later, on July the 5th, 1936, William Bowers, born the second, died at Filoli at age 78, weakened by years of paralysis and stroke complications. He was buried beside Agnes and Ma in the small family cemetery on the estate. The fourth grave belonged to the infant son who had died in 1882. The place William built to grow young had become the home of his family's final chapter. After the Bournes, a house without an heir. When William died, Filoli's future was uncertain. There were no immediate family members left to inherit it. Ma had died in 1929. She and Arthur Vincent had no children. William's other relatives had their own lives and properties. Filoli, huge, expensive, and complex to maintain, was suddenly a house without an heir. The estate went on the market in 1937. But selling a 654-acre Gilded Age mansion in the middle of the Great Depression was nearly impossible. Wealthy families were cautious. Many large estates across the country were being divided, demolished, or left to decay. Filoli required enormous staff, constant gardening, continuous repairs, substantial annual costs. Most potential buyers walked away. Then one couple walked in and saw something worth saving. The Roth era begins. In 1937, William Bill Roth and Lurleen Matson Roth visited Filoli. The Roth family was one of California's most successful and influential dynasties. Lurleen's father, Captain William Matson, had founded the Matson Navigation Company, an enormous shipping line that connected San Francisco and Hawaii with its famous white ships. When he died, Lurleen inherited a significant fortune. Her husband, Bill, became president of the company. They already owned homes, including a beautiful residence in San Francisco. But Filoli was something different. It was not just a house. It was an opportunity. Lurleen, an experienced gardener herself, fell in love with the grounds the moment she saw them. The formal layout, the terraces, the color, the structure, everything called to her. She didn't want to replace the gardens. She wanted to expand them, nurture them, and let them flourish. Bill saw a country retreat, a place to relax, raise their children, and escape the pressures of city life. The Roths purchased Filoli in 1937, and just like that, a new chapter began. A gentle transition. Unlike many wealthy buyers who transform an estate to their own tastes, Lurleen respected what the Bournes had created. She never tried to erase their vision. Instead, she treated Filoli like a living collaboration between her family and the Bourne. Although most of the original furniture had been sold before the estate changed hands, the house itself remained intact. The ballroom, with its towering ceilings, the reception hall and grand staircase, the oak-paneled dining room, the murals of Muckross House, the interconnected rooms designed by Willis Polk. Filoli still carried the soul of the Bournes, but now it would carry the touch of the Roths. Lurleen began refurnishing the rooms with taste, care, and an eye for history. But her greatest passion was the gardens, and for that, she turned to one person she trusted deeply: the return of Bella Warren. By 1937, Isabella Bella Warren was 68 years old. She had spent decades shaping gardens for some of the wealthiest families in California. She understood Filoli intimately. She knew every pathway, every hedge, and every planting decision she had made with Bruce Porter. When Lurleen asked her to continue overseeing the gardens, Bella agreed. It was the perfect partnership. Bella had strong opinions and a perfectionist's eye, but Lurleen was equally knowledgeable and respectful. She didn't micromanage. She asked questions, discussed possibilities, and trusted Bella's expertise. Together, they expanded the gardens far beyond what the Bournes had originally created. Lurleen wanted more camellias, more azaleas, more rhododendrons, more color throughout the year, more interest in the woodland spaces. She wanted Filoli to feel alive in every season, not just spring. Under their guidance, the woodland garden flourished. Shade-loving plants were layered beneath the oak trees. New textures appeared. The colors grew richer and more varied. In 1946, Lurleen added something Filoli had never had: a large swimming pool. But even this was done with respect for the estate's design. Bella planned the pool area, the pavilion, and the plantings so that everything blended naturally into the existing garden structure. They even relocated mature Irish yews, heavy, delicate, and difficult to move, to frame the pool area. The task was nearly impossible, but it succeeded. And today, visitors still see those same yews standing tall. The final years of the Roth family at Filoli. By the late 1950s, Bill Roth's health began to decline. Like William Bourne decades before him, he suffered a stroke. The pool had been built partly for his rehabilitation. He used it as therapy during his final years at Filoli. He died in 1963. Lurleen, then 70, continued to care for Filoli with the same dedication she always had. For over a decade, she managed the vast estate, tending the gardens and overseeing a staff that worked tirelessly to maintain its beauty. By the early 1970s, she faced a difficult question. What would happen to Filoli after she was gone? Her 3 adult children had their own lives. The estate was enormous and expensive. Dividing the land would destroy everything. Selling it risked developers tearing it apart. Only one option seemed right. And in 1975, she made a decision that would change Filoli's destiny forever. In the early 1970s, Lurleen Matson Roth was in her 80s, and Filoli had become more than just a home. It had become the purpose of her life. For nearly 40 years, she had poured her creativity, time, and heart into the estate. She expanded the gardens, preserved the architecture, and maintained the standards set long ago by William and Agnes Bourne. But the reality she now faced was unavoidable. Filoli was massive. The mansion had 56 rooms. The garden spanned 16 acres. The surrounding land stretched across 654 acres. Running such an estate required constant labor, a large staff, and an enormous amount of money. And Lurleen's children already had their own lives. They loved Filoli, but none of them wanted to take on a property so demanding. At the same time, California's landscape was changing. Large estates across the state and across the country were being demolished or divided. After World War II, the era of enormous private mansions was ending. Most families could no longer maintain them. Developers wanted land, not history. If Filoli fell into the wrong hands, it could be carved into hundreds of parcels or turned into something completely unrecognizable, and Lurleen could not allow that to happen. She understood that Filoli was not simply a home. It was a historic creation, one of America's last complete Gilded Age estates. Its gardens were irreplaceable. Its architecture was intact. Its history was powerful. So, she made a decision no one expected. She would give it all away. A gift too beautiful to keep. There was only one organization Lurleen trusted to protect Filoli, the National Trust for Historic Preservation. The trust existed for one purpose: to preserve important American places and keep their history alive. When she approached them, the trust immediately recognized Filoli's value. It was rare. It was untouched. It was nearly perfect. But taking on a property of its size required resources. The trust needed assurance that the house and gardens could be maintained properly. For months, both sides worked through the details. Could the trust afford the upkeep? Would Filoli be open to the public? Would the gardens be protected? Would the house remain exactly as the Bournes and Roths had created it? Lurlane asked all these questions and more. She was determined that Filoli would be respected, not turned into a novelty or a commercial attraction. Finally, in 1975, at the age of 82, Lurline Matson Roth made her historic decision. She donated the entire Filoli estate, all 654 acres, the mansion, the gardens, and even an endowment to help maintain it, to the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Her explanation was simple, just one memorable sentence: Filoli is too beautiful to be private. Those 5 words saved Filoli forever. In late 1975, Filoli opened its gates to the public for the first time. For nearly 60 years, from 1917 to 1975, only the Bournes and the Roths walked these paths. Now, anyone could. Garden lovers, history fans, students, tourists. Filoli was now a place for everyone. Lurline moved to a smaller home nearby. She visited Filoli often and lived long enough to see her gift flourish. She died in 1985, leaving behind a legacy of generosity that changed the estate's destiny. Hollywood discovers Filoli. Just a few years after Filoli opened to the public, Hollywood came calling. In 1978, director Warren Beatty needed a location for the film Heaven Can Wait. His team searched for a mansion that looked heavenly, grand, elegant, peaceful, and powerful. They found Filoli. The ballroom became a gym for the movie. Cameras swept over the terraces and gardens. Millions of viewers saw Filoli on screen without realizing it. But the movie was only the beginning. In 1981, ABC launched the TV series Dynasty, a drama about a wealthy family living in a luxurious estate. The show needed an exterior shot of a mansion that could symbolize wealth, romance, drama, and power. They chose Filoli. Every episode opened the same way, an aerial shot of the mansion and its magnificent gardens. Though the show was supposed to take place in Denver, viewers around the world became familiar with Filoli's silhouette. The interiors were filmed on studio sets, but the exteriors were unmistakably real. More than 20 million people watched each episode at its peak for 9 years. Across nearly 200 episodes, Filoli became an international icon without ever speaking a word. Tourism increased. Garden clubs from around the world requested visits. Asian tourists in particular recognized the estate from the opening scenes of Dynasty. Filoli became not just a historic estate, but a pop culture landmark. Other productions followed, commercials, films, and television shows. But nothing matched the reach of Dynasty. For an entire generation, Filoli became that mansion from TV, even if they never knew its real name. A new purpose in the modern world. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, Filoli grew in popularity. Its gardens remained spectacular. The estate's horticultural staff worked year-round to maintain the historic plantings inspired by Bruce Porter and Bella Warren. Each season brought something different. Spring, 75,000 bulbs bursting with tulips, daffodils, hyacinths. Summer, roses overflowing in the walled garden. Fall, chrysanthemums and rich autumn colors. Winter, bright camellias, evergreen hedges, and quiet pathways. Inside the mansion, rooms were gradually refurnished. Families with connections to the Bournes and Roths donated period-appropriate pieces. Filoli became a living museum, not frozen in time, but active, breathing, and evolving. Visitors learned about architecture, horticulture, California history, and the lives of the families who shaped the estate. The National Trust added programs for school children, history tours, nature walks, and seasonal festivals. And then, in 2023, Filoli entered the international spotlight once again. A meeting of world leaders. During the APEC conference in November 2023, U.S. President Joe Biden and China's President Xi Jinping needed a secure, private, and symbolic place for an informal summit. They chose Filoli. The images traveled around the world. two of the planet's most powerful leaders walking through Filoli's gardens, standing beneath its trees, and meeting inside its softly lit rooms. For many viewers in China, the location was instantly recognizable. Decades earlier, they had watched Filoli every week in Dynasty. Diplomats explained the meaning behind the location. A place shaped by wealth, ambition, beauty, and history had become a peaceful setting for international conversation. This moment proved something important. Filoli was not just a museum. It was still a place where history happened. Filoli today, a living legacy. Today, over 400,000 people visit Filoli annually. They come from around the world to explore. The ballroom where Agnes Bourne once played piano. The dining room where the Bournes hosted elegant dinners. The terraces overlooking the gardens. The rooms where the Roth family lived for decades. The gardens that continue to bloom exactly as Bella Warren and Lurline Roth planned. Filoli is far more than a preserved mansion. It is one of the last fully intact Gilded Age estates in California, and one of the few in the entire United States that has survived without being divided, sold off in pieces, or radically changed. The National Trust maintains it through membership fees, donations, ticket sales, extensive volunteer programs. And ironically, the estate built by extreme private wealth now survives because of thousands of small contributions from ordinary people. It has become something William Bourne never imagined, a democratic space open to anyone. And yet, one part of Filoli remains. Private, hidden beneath the trees, is a small cemetery containing 4 graves. William Bowers, born the Serrans. Agnes Moody, born. Maud Ma, born Vincent. The infant son, who died in 1882. Visitors do not see these graves. They are not part of the tour, but they are the quiet heart of Filoli. They remind us that Filoli was built by real people, that it was shaped by dreams and broken by tragedies, that wealth cannot save a family from loss, that beauty can outlive sorrow, and that a place meant for privacy can become a treasure meant for everyone. What Filoli truly represents. When William sat in his wheelchair at the top of the garden, looking down toward the reservoir valley he once controlled, he could not have known what Filoli would one day become. He built it as a retreat, as a symbol of status, as a gift for his wife, as a connection to his daughter in Ireland. But Filoli transformed into something far greater. It became one of the most important preserved estates in American history. It became a backdrop for film and television. It became a place of diplomacy. And it became a sanctuary for anyone who loves beauty. The gold is gone. The water empire dissolved. The fortunes faded. But the gardens remain. The house stands. The vision survives. And that is the true legacy of Filoli. A dream built by one family, saved by another, and now shared with the world.